Good evening, Unity on the Bay. Glad you're with me tonight. And as people join us, if you would let me know you're here by posting something in the chat. Otherwise, I'm not aware of your presence with this experience tonight, but let me know you're here. And we're going to have an interesting conversation, I assure you, because we're not dealing with one book tonight. We're dealing with 4 different books. Assuming we have time enough to go through them all, because tonight is the last episode of Shelf Discovery. It's been a little over a year now, I think, since we started this program, and I have enjoyed every moment of it. Sorry I couldn't be with you last week, but you may have heard I was having the COVID experience and simply not able to join you, but I'm really glad to be here with you tonight. Hi, Irene. Nice to have you here. Glad you're with us. And if you are watching, please post something in the chat so that I know that you're with us. And this has been a great experience. You know, I really appreciate your engagement in these programs and your engagement at Unity on the Bay, because I believe that the thoughts and the ways of being that we explore together are relatively unique, and you can't find groups just to run around and talk with these subjects about very easily. Here we have one. Unity on the Bay, we have a holy host of them. But I think it makes a difference when we come together in agreement that our minds are open, that our hearts are receptive, and we're really trying to support each other in this amazing exploration. Hi, Nancy. I'm glad you're here tonight. Hi, Pam. Thanks for being with me. Again, I'm sorry I missed you last week. I was under the weather, and I'm doing much better, actually, over the last few days. I had a wonderful weekend with our prayer chaplains at Unity on the Bay. We had our second weekend of intensive training, and it's just beautiful. These are amazing souls, very dedicated, and it was just great to be with them and to have that experience. Irene, going through withdrawal. Hey, you know, I get it, my dear. I get it. Hi, Carm. Glad you're here. And hi, Cookie. Glad you're here as well. There is a level of withdrawal in this, I've been noticing, you know, because I think I first announced my retirement in February, and it just seems like the time has flown by. And one of the reasons why I'm concluding Shelf Discovery tonight is because I have a number of different family trips planned. All the people in my family want to come down and have their last hurrah in Florida, though it's really not the last hurrah because I love Florida and I'm sure I'll be back. But they're all trying to get their time in at the beach before I come back to Kansas City. I will miss you too, Carm. Thank you, Pam. I am grateful to be back in good health, too. Hi, Cindy. I love you. Hi, Anna. Thanks for being here. Yeah, you know, maybe not the only, but one of the benefits of getting under the weather or not feeling well, and in my case last week, it was like I was immobilized. I just could not move. So there's no way I could be with you. But one of the benefits of that, one of the blessings of this whole COVID experience we've gone through and all the peculiar experiences that it's taken us through is getting to the other side. And, you know, when you've been without good health and you regain it, you don't take a moment of it for granted. So I'm really, really happy to be here. Happy to be feeling good. Hi, Anna. Hi, Angela. I love you, my dear, so much. Eduardo, thank you for being here. All right, so we have several books. What I did was I went through all the books not all of them, but many of the books that we've discussed over the past year. And I was trying to pick out what I thought would be excerpts that some of which we have explored before in Shelf Discovery, but some of which we haven't. I think most of which we haven't. Some of the same books, but different excerpts. And it's interesting to me to see how these spiritual spokespersons resonate around some common points. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about tonight as we go through this. Oh, where are my glasses? Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. They're here and they are helpful. In fact, they're so very helpful. I'm getting more accustomed to remembering that I have them and the benefit of putting them actually on my face and using them. So thank you always for the reminder, Cindy. So the first book I wanted to explore, if you remember, we looked at this one, A Friendly Universe by Byron Katie. And I love Byron Katie's work. You know, she asks the four questions. See if I can remember them. When you are experiencing a thought that is bringing you stress, the first question is it true? Is the thought true? The second question is, can you be absolutely certain that it's true? The third question is, how do you feel or what do you experience when you think that thought? And the fourth question is, who would you be without that thought? So this is all about engaging in questioning the thoughts that we're holding in our minds. And so often we don't question. That's what I love about Unity, is that it was born out of two inquisitive minds, searching minds that were really seeking to find a better way of living. And, you know, that's really all the universe asks of us, is to be receptive and to be willing to consider, is there a better way? And of course, there always is. And that's part of what we explore at Unity, and it's part of what Byron Katie explores in her work. Hi, Luciana. I love her too. Great lady. So let's take a look at this just very brief little excerpt from It's a Friendly Universe by Byron Katie. It's brief, but just take it in and give me your feedback on this, because it is controversial by many minds. The world is your perception of it. Inside and outside always match. They're reflections of each other. The world is the mirror image of your own mind. That's a lot. What do you think about that? The world is the mirror image of your own mind. It's very Course in Miracles. It's very Byron Katie. It's very Don Miguel Ruiz. It's very Neville Goddard. It's very Anthony DeMello. I'm looking at the books that I want to review tonight. It's a common theme, this idea that our internal dynamic, comprised of the thoughts that we are thinking and the feelings that result from those thoughts, it's all being projected out into our day-to-day experience. Ergo, if we are trying to manipulate or reform or change the screen outside of us, it's important to remember that's always a futile effort. The change must take place within us, because it's not until we change our minds that we have the ability to change our experience of life. And it's difficult, I know, when all of these appearances out here on the screen are so compelling. And I'm not saying we don't take action in that external experience. I'm just saying we don't make that the focal point of our experience or our existence. We know, I've used this illustration many times, if we're sitting in a movie theater and we don't like the movie, and we run down to the screen and start barking at the characters on the screen to change their wicked ways or to improve the movie, or we try to rearrange the figures on the screen, the settings, the conditions, it's to no avail. We all know if you want to change the movie, you've got to go to the projector. Well, what Byron's telling us here, and so many modern day sages and mystics are telling us, is it has to begin inside of us with an examination, a questioning of our thoughts and our belief system. What do you think about that? Because for many, it's a bitter pill to swallow. I was just sharing that with somebody the other day, and they looked at me like I totally had lost my mind. What the heck are you talking about? That everything out here is a reflection of everything in here. But it's fundamental, I believe, to spiritual understanding. It also requires us to take complete responsibility for our experience of life, complete responsibility, zero, zilch, nada victimization. There's no longer victimization. I am experiencing what I am experiencing because I am holding that in my own consciousness, and my experience is a direct reflection of my consciousness. Speaking of direct reflections of my consciousness, hey, Juan Del Hierro, are you still up in the Alaskan frozen wastelands? But they are beautiful. Some of the pictures you put on Facebook are just stunning. I'm sure you had a wonderful, rejuvenating time with your wonderful family, and happy anniversary to you and Tom. I think that was yesterday. Hello. Happy anniversary to you, and I hope you're having a wonderful trip, and I can't wait to see you later this week, I think. And hi, Christina, glad you're here. Hi, Maggie, glad you're here. I'm glad you love Byron Katie as well. And here's Angela. It brings up, thank you, Cindy, for the reminder, glasses on. It brings the power back to us, says Angela. It's all in the mind. The key is to bring awareness as the thoughts we don't like present themselves to us. We need to know that we can choose not to entertain it. That is the beauty of that teaching, I believe. That's the beauty of that teaching. When you're in a victim state of consciousness, you can't do anything about anything because it's all being imposed from outside of you. Whereas this particular teaching or understanding, or I believe spiritual truth, helps us to realize it's there because we have chosen to place it there, because we have given it value. And it will only be relinquished from our experience when we cease to give it value. All right, so that's how we open with the Friendly Universe and Byron Katie. Now let's flip on to this guy, this dude, amazing fellow, Don Miguel Ruiz. We've had him at Unity on the Bay, just like we've had Byron at Unity on the Bay. And that's because their thinking is very complementary to the Unity way of life, I believe. And we're looking here at the 4 agreements. We've explored that book before, but let's take a look at this to see how it is that we get the ideas or the thoughts in our minds that are creating this experience of reality that we don't particularly like, or that we would believe could be better if it were changed. During the process, excuse me just a minute, Cindy, I believe that 100% we can only really perceive the world from our own side. Amen, my dear. I didn't think you'd have any issues with that because I know you are thinking pretty well and I admire it and I love it. Okay, here's Don Miguel. During the process of domestication, and if you recall, domestication is the experience of being conditioned by external circumstances, ideas, and thoughts that are passed on to us. It's something that we all experience as we move through childhood and sometimes even into adulthood. He says, during the process of domestication, we form an image of what perfection is in order to try to be good enough. We create an image of how we should be in order to be accepted by everybody. We especially try to please the ones who love us, like mom and dad, big brothers and sisters, the priests and the teacher, trying to be good enough for them. We create an image of perfection, but we don't fit this image. We create this image, but this image is not real. We are never going to be perfect from this point of view. Never. See, we've created a fantasy figure based on everything we were told we should be, ought to be, could be, needed to be, as opposed to being, expressing, trusting in what we are. Not being perfect, we reject ourselves. And the level of self-rejection depends on how effective the adults were in breaking our integrity. After domestication, it is no longer about being good enough for anybody else. We're not good enough for ourselves because we don't fit with our own image of perfection. We cannot forgive ourselves for not being what we wish to be, or rather what we believe we should be. We cannot forgive ourselves for not being perfect. That's a mouthful. We cannot forgive ourselves for not being perfect. Why? Because we've created an image of perfection that isn't real, that isn't true. This is the whole concept of, in Unity, we refer to it as the ego as opposed to the Christ. The ego is the idea that we have made up of ourselves and who we believe ourselves to be. And the Christ is the absolute truth of who we are. That's why I get a little bit perplexed when I hear people talking about how we are imperfect. I believe they can only be talking about the image that they or I or somebody has made for themselves. It's not the absolute truth, because right now in this moment, from the absolute perspective, from the spiritual identity perspective, you're perfect, I'm perfect, it's all perfect exactly as it is. It may not seem that way, but that's only because we've invested in the result of this domestication process. Pam, thank you. When I explain the concept, I am looked at like I have a third eye. Yes, one must be cautious. That's, again, the benefit. It's what I love about Unity on the Bay, especially because I think we're very forward thinking We're very open-minded. So we can share these kinds of ideas and explore them, whether they settle into our minds or whether we accept them or not. We've created an environment where individuals are invited to look at things inquisitively, more from the vantage point of a question than an absolute decision or our minds made up. I've said many times, the worst thing you can ever do, I believe, is to make up your mind. This is the way it is. Now it's carved in stone. Keep your life etched in butter so that as you grow and evolve and see things differently and change your consciousness, you give permission for your world to do the same. Pam, well, I actually do have a third eye, thinking back on my statement. Yes, but I know exactly what you meant. You do have a third eye, as we all do. Thank you, Cindy, for confirming that. So here we go further on in Miguel's work. We know we are not what we believe we are supposed to be, and so we feel false, frustrated, and dishonest. We try to hide ourselves, and we pretend to be what we are not. The result is we feel unauthentic, and wear social masks to keep others from noticing this. We are so afraid somebody else will notice that we are not what we pretend to be. We judge others according to our image of perfection as well, and naturally, they fall short of our expectations. So see, what this is saying is, through the erroneous ideas and beliefs that we have embraced, we have created an image of what we think we should be, could be, ought to be, need to be. And then we try to live up to that constantly, to that image, which is not a true image. It is a false image. And so we're aspiring to convince the world that we are something that we are not, because we believe that what we are is insufficient, unworthy, and inadequate. So the whole spiritual journey, or at least a very large part of it from my perspective, is to break out of that conditioned thinking, to break free of that domestication, so that we can realize we are, in fact, as we say so often in unity, made in the image and likeness of God. Not at some distant point in the future, not after we repair ourselves extensively, but right now in this moment. And if it doesn't seem that way, it's only because we have accepted false ideas about ourselves. We have built a character out of those false ideas, and we're trying to live up to it. So instead of investing our energy in being authentic and real and true beings of integrity, we're chasing after sort of phantom figures because we believe that that's what we ought to be, instead of believing that what we are is exactly what we need to be. And it is only by being that we bring our greatest gifts into expression in this world, in this life. So there's a little 4 agreements for you in the process of domestication. Now we get to go. Nancy, you're going to like this. You gave this to me. The feeling is the secret. Neville Goddard. Just one little passage I wanted to share. What do you think of these ideas, folks? Mighty quiet out there. Here we go. Goddard, a little feeling is the secret. The subconscious never alters the accepted beliefs of man. It outpictures them to the last detail, whether or not they are beneficial. Now let's just take this in for a minute. The subconscious never alters the accepted beliefs of man. It outpictures them to the last detail. So in other words, the subconscious is not sitting there saying, well, his image or her image is not based on absolute truth. It's based on fantasy or something that's been made up in an individual's mind. It doesn't care. It's going to reproduce whatever the content of your consciousness is, because that's its job. And that's how you can always tell what's going on in your consciousness. Look at your life. Look at your experience. It'll reveal it to you every time. I'm going to pause here and skip to Anthony DeMello for a minute in the little tiny book, The Way of Love, because when we understand that our subconscious is reproducing the content of our consciousness into our day-to-day life experience, we can begin to look at that life experience and say to ourselves, what does this mean about me? And I've been going through this. If you were listening to yesterday's talk at Unity on the Bay, I've been going through it. I'm not going to complain about it because, relatively speaking, it's not been anywhere near the kind of path that some others take in terms of COVID or anything else. But I've had a lot of activity going on in my life, and I've had lots of opportunities to question, what the heck is this and where is this coming from? The sense for me has been like a loss of control. And a lot of that was prompted by two back-to-back ailments, one being conjunctivitis in my left eye, which went on for about a week or so. And the other then was COVID coming shortly on the tails of conjunctivitis. And I'm sitting there going, all right, what is this trying to tell me about my consciousness? That I'm experiencing this sickness. That, well, number one, shows me that on some level I still value the experience of sickness. I'm not a victim. This has not been imposed upon me. I've created it as part of my reality because of the content of my consciousness. So that gives me, and this is not about blame, shame, or guilt. It's about freedom from judgment and being able to objectively just look at what's going on. I'm experiencing sickness. I was also at the time experiencing a certain level of chaos. I'm also experiencing a certain level of apprehension about all the changes that are coming up in my life because I haven't had changes on this level for nearly a couple of decades. Bringing it back without judgment and just being able to say, what is this experience trying to tell me about myself? And from that angle, let's listen to these words from Anthony DeMello, one of my favorite and greatest authors. All right, Cindy, where did I put my glasses? Oh, there they are. Slipped under my computer because this is tiny print. Okay, here we go. This is loaded, friends. What we're going to wrap up on tonight, but it's loaded. Now, take this into consideration. What Goddard has already told us about the subconscious simply replicates or duplicates whatever it is we're holding in our consciousness as our experience. And then DeMello comes along and says, how could you go about creating a happy, loving, peaceful world? Would you like to do that tonight? Support the creation of a happy, loving, peaceful world. He says, by learning a simple, beautiful, but painful art called the art of looking. And this is how you do it. Every time you find yourself irritated or angry with someone, the one to look at is not that person, but yourself. The question to ask is not, what's wrong with this person? But rather, what does this irritation tell me about myself? Think of some irritating person you know and say this painful but liberating sentence. The cause of my irritation is not in this person, but in me. Having said that, begin the task of finding out how you are causing the irritation. First, look into the very real possibility that the reason why this person's defects or so-called defects annoy you, and here we go, is because you have them yourself. But you have repressed them. You have repressed them and so are projecting them unconsciously into the other person. This is almost always true, but hardly anyone ever recognizes it. So search for this person's defects in your own heart and in your own unconscious mind, and your annoyance will turn to gratitude that his or her behavior has led you to self-discovery. I believe that, friends. I'm not always saying that I catch myself, but who is it that has said, when you have one finger pointing out here, you've got 3 or 4 fingers pointing back at you. You see, as long as we're looking out here and putting all the responsibility for the inappropriate behavior, for our actions and our reactions, we're still in victim consciousness. And this victim consciousness has been so domesticated into our understanding of who we are. Most of us, myself included, still believe certain days, certain times, certain experiences I am a victim of the world I see. And of course, ACIM tells us you are not the victim of the world you see. The world you see is only there because of what you have accepted, given entry to, allowed to purchase real estate, property, pitch a tent in your own mind, in your own consciousness. And we're never going to get out of this quagmire, this human dilemma, until we start to realize we are the projector of this entire drama. We do it individually, then we come together in agreement with others, and same thing. We make these agreements, we build them into individual and collective consciousness, and then they express as this thing that we call the world of time and space. Thank you, Lillian, for being here tonight. And Cindy, imagine that these illnesses are purges. You are letting go of stuck energy. You know, I really do believe that. And this has been a game of letting go now for several months for me. And I think it's just getting geared up. I'm kind of glad I have this family time coming up over the next few weeks because I think it'll be beneficial just to be able to chill a bit. You know, chilling a bit is so important. We spent most of yesterday at the Prayer Chaplain Training Intensive talking about self-care. So important to care for ourselves while we're on this wild adventure. Wild, and I'll say wonderful adventure. Luciana, with that wow, yeah, was that to Anthony DeMello? So I guess I do have a little more time here. I love you, Nancy. Yeah, thanks to everybody that's been a part of this. I'm not going to go any further because I just want to take the last few moments here and let you know a couple things. Oh, let's see what Charity. Hi, Charity. I have a little difficulty because this Unity on the Bay logo, much as I love it, keeps showing up in the corner of my screen. And there we go. Lots of themes of surrender without victimizing, but acceptance and peace. Yes, a chilling bit. It is, Charity. But you know, we're all brave souls and we've got what we need, right? Amen. Amen. So what I wanted to do in closing here tonight is just take a moment to thank you for being a part of this discovery over the past year with me and with Unity on the Bay, and to truly express my appreciation for not only what we've experienced together in this last year, but over the last 16 years at Unity on the Bay and in our lives, and how much we've all taught each other and grown from each other, from the exploration. To me, that's everything. The longer that I have served as a minister at Unity on the Bay or in any other capacity, the more I have come to realize that true ministry is awakening to the realization that every one of us is a teacher and a student of one another. We're all the Christ. All of us are the Christ. If we need each other at all, it is so that we are able to better experience that presence of the Christ in ourselves and in one another. Remembering that there's only one of us here. Friends, this takes communal effort, and you're a part of it. That's why it's so important, I think, that we continue to come together. It won't be on Shelf Discovery in this particular format, but check out the menu at Unity on the Bay. We have so many wonderful programs, and it's just getting started. Our new 5-year strategic plan is going to open us up to all new and wonderful kinds of ways of serving and awakening each other. So stay loyal to that and stay loyal to your own spiritual growth and development, because one thing I do believe, there's no better investment on the planet. Every tiny step we make toward liberating ourselves from the idea that we are victimized by anyone or anything is incredibly empowering, and gives us that which is required in order to experience life in the manner in which we're intended to experience it. Not running around feeling like we're undeserving or unworthy. Let's think about our concept of God and ask ourselves, is that something God would create? A miserable, suffering, individual in a miserable, suffering world. It is not the truth. That's why when we talk about truth and unity, we put a capital T on it, because there's an absolute truth. And I know from everybody that's on this call right now that you recognize that something in you and your life experience has brought you to this moment in which you're willing to remember who you are. And you're not willing to accept the bogus interpretations and definitions that have been given to you by outside authorities. I think it's time right now. I think this is the time of spiritual awakening, spiritual remembrance. And each and every one of you is a part of it. Please never forget how important your role is. Because every time you make a decision to free yourself from your own domesticated image of who you have thought yourself to be, and you stand in the certainty of the Christ presence that you are, you're not only just benefiting yourself, my friend, you are benefiting this entire world. We want to make this world a better place. Let's begin by being willing to look openly and honestly at that which is contained within our own projector. I know that you are. I know the dedication of this group that we have here tonight. And I know the dedication of so many souls that have come together in the name of unity at this amazing place we call Unity on the Bay. So stay tuned, my friends. Wonderful things are coming as the future unfolds. And just always, always know the depth of love I feel for you is unfathomable. And it's true, and it's right, and it's beautiful. Just like you, Luciana says, may we all collectively give up victim mentality and embrace our power. Thank you for the reminder tonight. And thank you for the reminder. And thank you, June, for those beautiful words, all of you. It's been a wonderful experience. And if you get bored some night, you want to watch an old episode of Shelf Discovery, I think you can go onto our Facebook page or our YouTube page and pull one up. Do not forget, however, that we also have wonderful meditations being offered every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Facebook Live and YouTube with Reverend Juan and his guests, some of whom have been covering for him while he's been away. It's a great way to start your day, and it's a great way to stay in touch. Be well. I love you all. Have a wonderful Monday evening, and have a wonderful, wonderful life.